Rapelang Radebe, who's in Maseru, and he joins us on the line now about what all of this means. Rapelang, always good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. From the moment this coalition came together, I suppose there was always a fear that something could spark the events that we're seeing right now.
Absolutely, Peter. Good evening. In the cold mountain we're expecting snow this weekend. Indeed, it's a different scenario altogether when we talk about Lesotho's coalition. We know when the former Prime Minister Tom Thabane said he was retiring, it was a battle to find his predecessor, his successor. The problem was that inside the ABC there were already too many problems, and they were struggling to find the successor. His deputy has now broken away, which means it's putting this coalition into serious challenges. Now, Dr. Moeketsi Majoro, as you will understand, was not elected, but rather appointed. It was a decision of the members of parliament who said he can hold the fort until the elections next year, 2022. But it looks like it's already cracking with the breakaway of Professor Nkosi Mahao, who was the deputy who was supposed to be following us after the Thabane. But it looks like it's not holding on anymore. So whether their coalition with the DC will actually stand the test, because I was informed actually that tomorrow they will be defecting from the government benches. They will either move to the opposition or what they call cross benches. Cross benches is where you neither fall in opposition or in government. We will see how that will pan out tomorrow.
Can MPs do that, Rapelang? I mean, they're not there on their own wings. They're there because they represent their constituencies and people that voted for them.
Fortunately or unfortunately, Lesotho still considers floor crossing as legitimate. The advantage that has come out recently was that they had put forward a law that says Lesotho will not go to elections until the end of term. That means until the end of its 5-year tenure. Now, the problem is that floor crossing can still destabilize the entire parliament. But the good thing about it is that it does not lead to that situation where we saw Lesotho going to elections sometimes up to 3 times in one term of parliament.
One gets a sense that the ABC is struggling with factionalism. Is that as a result of the way that Tom Thabane was ousted?
It is actually a tragedy because ABC was the fastest, the biggest growing. They called it revolutionary because Tom Thabane defected from what was called LCD, the staunch LCD. You'll see Lesotho is basically divided into the Congress and the Nationalists. Basically, that's right. But he came up with a middle ground of something is a convention, saying he wants to do away with the hardcore extreme of the left and right and wanted something in the center. And it really gained traction because it had huge support from young people, from the the constituencies within around towns and stuff. And that is why he really got mileage out of it. But now it looks like succession has always been a problem. There could not be proper structures that allow that freely the people on the ground can be the one who exercises their right to actually appoint or elect whoever the successor is. The problem started when they went to the conference and they were just not happy with whoever emerged, which was Professor Nkosi Mahao.
All right, so they're trying to put on a brave face saying that, yes, there may be this split happening, but that's not going to affect government and the majority in parliament. Can you see that holding until the elections next year?
Yeah, it's just a firefighting exercise, really. Because if you look at it, their junior partner, which is DC, is now gaining in terms of the numbers. As you can imagine, there's already 6 vacancies that they are not able to fill because now it comes with the conditions as to if you are going to fill those positions, who do you award them to? And how do you now start to buy patronage such that you can gain at least some parliamentarians? So you can see that it's going to be a mountain to climb for him to try and fill those positions because their junior partners also wanted to be awarded. And if it seems that Professor Nkosamaha has got substantiated proper numbers, maybe that he can actually be negotiating, they will be looking as to whether they can start negotiations with him such that they retain power at least to the end. So when it comes to ABC, it is a big question mark, but the DC can comfortably sit and watch events happen. They will be just waiting for whoever seems to emerge with higher numbers so that they can stay within government with that particular faction.
How did we end up in a situation where the ABC fell below the threshold of 60 plus 1?
It's an interesting one because, you know, the fragility of the coalition comes with those challenges that as soon as you are at a fragile point of numbers, people start horse trading. People start to look at opportunities as to how much they can fracture this particular government such that the smaller little parties can now come consolidate their numbers because everybody wants a stake inside this pie. But the problem is that if you don't have solid coalition, at least at 65, and we really thought these 2 parties, which is ABC and DC, would last even longer because they are the biggest parties in Lesotho. But when ABC started fracturing, we knew something was now going to give.
What do the ordinary citizens on the ground, how are they observing all of this? Or do they just watch quietly and then they'll show up at the next election?
Yeah, I've had a flurry of serious traffic in my inbox, talking to people in the streets. A lot of them are really fatigued. I think what really sparked one of the anger in many of them was when the members of parliament awarded themselves what they called the 5,000 rand, 5,000 maluti. They call it petrol allowance. And this really angered a lot of people who said, can they really go to that extent of awarding themselves lucrative benefits when it's the time of COVID? Well, they justified and said that those allowances have always been there. They just wanted to regulate them. But I think it has really incited a lot of people anxiety, saying these people are all about themselves. So a lot of them, they are claiming fatigue and said they don't know whether there is a viable party that they can actually vote for in the next coming elections. And it's just around the corner. Next year, the latest June, I think it's the anticipation as when the next elections will come to be.
So apart from political infighting, would you say that the current government has been able to manage a lot of the other issues that were a concern? I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we had President Ramaphosa coming to Lesotho to solve real security issues.
You're absolutely right. You know, when it comes to that particular side, I think SADC did a brilliant job. You know, they have been keeping the eye. I know recently there has been emerging issues regarding to Ndate Moseneka's role in Lesotho, especially on what they call transitional justice. There is a part that says he wants to find a loophole for those who were active in the killings and others, and somehow maybe solve the entire thing through the transitional justice system, something like a justice and reconciliation kind of situation. But the family members actually had a press conference saying this is a scapegoat that will let people who have done these atrocities to go scot-free. So there's a little bit of that tension. But generally, I think one would say Lesotho has been relatively stable. Another advantage is that when it comes to the military has been a source of much of the problems because politicians really use them. But the current crop of leadership in the military, I think, is to be applauded. They have been relatively neutral. They have been going on about their own businesses. So I think it has kept everybody slightly at bay not to meddle with issues that can destabilize the entire country.